increasing and decreasing functions. We talk about graphs being an increasing graph or being a decreasing graph based on the direction the graph is going. When you consider two x values, for the first x value is less than the second x value. If a graph is increasing, well then the first y value would be smaller than the second y value. As your x's increase, your y's also increase. That's what a graph is increasing. When a graph is decreasing, if your first x is smaller than your second x, your first y would be larger than your second y. That's for a decreasing graph. If you think of a graph as from left to right, if you were to walk along that graph, starting at the left, if your walk is downhill on that portion of the graph, we call that decreasing. But if you walk from left to right uphill, that portion of the graph is increasing. So we would say this graph is decreasing on the interval from -2 to 0. Our interval here refers to the x values. The x value where it starts decreasing and the x value where it stops decreasing. We would say that this same graph is increasing on the interval from where x is 0 to x is -2. I'm sorry, not -2, +2, because it stops at x equal 2. So this is an interval of x values. It's not an ordered pair. It's interval notation. So let's look at this graph. Always start at the left. So if I looked at the left end of the graph here, my graph goes downhill. So my first interval is a decreasing interval. That interval starts at the very most left end of the graph. Okay? And because it has an arrow, that means it keeps going forever to the left. So I have to use a negative infinity for the first value in my interval notation. But it stops decreasing at the x value of -2. So I would end my decreasing interval at -2. Now once I get past -2, the graph increases. So my increasing interval will start at that same -2, and then it stops increasing when I get to here. So that is an x value of +2. So the interval where it's increasing is -2 to +2. If I were to write that with an inequality notation, it would look like that, where x is between your -2 and your +2. And once I get past the +2, the graph starts decreasing again. So that would be the interval that starts at +2, and then the x's go to infinity. And because it's two separate intervals, I have to use a union symbol between them. Here I have a graph of a straight line. This is a linear function. Anytime you have a linear function, your graph is going to do the same thing over the entire graph. It will either be increasing or decreasing, or it could be a constant function. Remember, constant functions would just go straight across. So what we have here is a graph that's increasing. So that means the entire graph is -infinity to +infinity. It's increasing from -infinity to +infinity. Here's a graph. This is actually an upside-down parabola. If we start at the left, the first part of the graph here starts at -infinity, x of -infinity. and it's increasing up until I get to the x value of 0. So my first interval would be increasing from negative infinity to 0. Then once I get past an x value of 0, my graph starts going down. So it will be decreasing from 0 to positive infinity. Here I don't have the graph. I would have to get the graph myself. So I'm going to use my calculator to do that. So I want to turn my calculator on and then go to my y equals screen and put my function in. These bars here means the absolute value. The absolute value function in your calculator is on the math key. So I would press math, then I would have to use the right arrow to arrow over to the num column. Absolute value is the first option. So now I put whatever's inside the absolute value bars inside the parentheses. Graph. And I see a V shape. The first part of my graph, looking at it from the left to the right, is decreasing. So my first interval will be negative infinity to, where does it stop decreasing? Stops decreasing at an x value of positive 2. Right here is where it stops decreasing. Then it increases. So it would increase from that positive 2 to an x value of infinity.